Everyone in Burnley knew him as Jack Bamford. Quiet, tough, always looking like he had a secret he wasn't ready to tell. But in the ring, he wasn't Jack anymore. He was Jock McAvoy, the Rochdale Thunderbolt. He took that name not just for show, but to keep his own mother from finding out he was fighting for a living. She would have never approved. But Jock wasn't waiting for permission. He was chasing power, pride, and glory. Discovered by the legendary Joseph Tolley at the iconic Rochdale Boxing Club, Jock's fists spoke louder than words. His punches didn't just hit, they thundered. In 1931, Manchester's King's Hall roared when Jock faced Joe Lothner. By the 8th round, Lothner's corner had seen enough. They threw in the towel. The crowd erupted. Jock was now the BBBOFC, Northern Area middleweight champion. He didn't stop there. British titles, Commonwealth titles, even stepped up to light heavyweight and owned it. Then came Paris, January 15th, 1935, the biggest fight of his life, a chance at the European crown. But standing in his way was France's Marcel Thill, a future world champ. Jock fought hard, but the decision went against him. Still, win or lose, Jock McAvoy had already done the impossible. He turned a hidden name into a thunderous legend. By 1933, the name Jock McAvoy echoed far beyond Rochdale. On April 10th, under the heavy lights of Manchester, Jock went head-to-head with the polished and precise Len Harvey. 15 grueling rounds, 2 warriors, 1 prize. When the final bell rang, Jock's hand was raised. He wasn't just a champion. He was now the British and British Empire middleweight king. But McAvoy didn't stop at borders. He had bigger maps in mind. In 1935, he packed his fists and crossed the Atlantic to America, the land of fast talk, bright lights, and boxing politics. Then came December 21st, Madison Square Garden. His opponent, Ed Babe Briscoe, the reigning world middleweight champion. It was a non-title bout, but Jock wasn't there for formality. He was there for blood. Seconds into round 1, boom, a right hook to the jaw. Briscoe hit the canvas. The crowd gasped. Then again, and again. 5 more times. Briscoe dropped like a rag doll. By 2 minutes and 48 seconds, it was over. Knocked out cold. McAvoy had just destroyed the world champion. But he made one mistake. He made Briscoe look too human. Boxing politics closed in. A rematch for the title never came. He wasn't given another shot. Too dangerous. Too real. Too British. So Jock shifted lanes. If they wouldn't give him the middleweight crown, he'd take the light heavyweight kingdom. By February 1936, he had already won 2 fights on American soil. Then came the moment, a shot at the NBA World Light Heavyweight title. His opponent, the slick, sharp John Henry Lewis. Another Madison Square Garden showdown. March 13th, 1936. 15 rounds of war. Jock fought with heart, but Lewis danced just out of reach. When it ended, McAvoy had lost on points. But even in defeat, Jock never bowed. He wasn't just chasing belts, he was chasing greatness. And every punch he threw echoed back across the ocean, back home, where a mother still might not have known her boy had become a legend. After chasing greatness in America, Jock McAvoy returned home, not broken, but burning. His loss to John Henry Lewis hadn't crushed him. If anything, it had lit another fire. Now, he was aiming even higher. The British and British Empire heavyweight titles, held by the iron-jawed Welshman, Jack Peterson. April 23, 1936. Kensington, London. The air was tight. 10,000 people packed the arena, waiting for war. Jock came out fast, sharp, hungry. His fists snapped like electricity, flashy lefts, crisp and clean, rocking Peterson early. The crowd roared, but then the rhythm slowed. Too slow. The crowd didn't like it. They shouted, begged, mix it up. Jock listened. He surged forward again, but Peterson, with 12 pounds of raw weight behind him, dug deep. A right uppercut caught McAvoy clean and dropped him. Count of 8. The whole place held its breath. But Jock, he wasn't done. He rose, steady, composed, and for the rest of the bout, he stayed on his feet, weaving, ducking, crouching, slipping punches like a ghost. Tricks he picked up in the smoke and sweat of American gyms. Despite the size difference, despite the knockdown, McAvoy fought smart. He made Peterson miss, made him chase shadows. And though the judges gave the win to Peterson on points, McAvoy walked out with his head high. He'd stood toe-to-toe with a heavyweight and never cracked. Even through the chaos, the crowd noticed something else. Peterson kept throwing shots to the back of Jock's head and kept getting warned. But McAvoy, he never complained. He just kept fighting, because that's who he was. Not just a boxer, not just a champion, but a fighter in every weight, in every ring, in every country. Jock McAvoy didn't need a belt to prove anything. His story was already being told in bruises, cheers, and the silence of every man who couldn't knock him down for good. By 1937, Jock McAvoy had already battled across oceans and weight classes, but he wasn't done. April 27th, Empire Pool, Wembley. The crowd buzzed as McAvoy stepped into the ring for the semi-final bout. His opponent, Eddie Phillips, tough, tested, dangerous. But McAvoy was on fire. In the 14th round, he unleashed the shot that ended it. KO. The British light heavyweight title was his. For a moment, it looked like the Thunderbolt was back on top. But boxing doesn't stay still. April 7th, 1938, Haringey Arena. McAvoy met a familiar face in the ring. Len Harvey, the man he once took a title from. This time, Harvey came sharp, fast, and focused. In round 3, a head clash opened a cut above Harvey's eye. In round 10, he ducked a blow so low he nearly fell out of the ring. 15 rounds later, Harvey's hand was raised. McAvoy had lost the light heavyweight crown, but the war wasn't over. July 10th, 1939, White City Stadium, a crowd of 100,000, the biggest of McAvoy's life. Again, it was Harvey. Again, the title was on the line, both world and British light heavyweight. McAvoy struck first, dropping Harvey in round 2. But Harvey got up, and the battle raged on. In round 14, McAvoy pounded him, a terrific beating. But in the final moments, Harvey trapped him in a corner and punished him with right crosses. 15 rounds. No belt. Still, Jock never stopped swinging. One of his final battles was against a rising star, Freddie Mills. Mills beat him on points, then forced McAvoy to retire in their rematch with a back injury. The Thunderbolt was finally silenced, but never forgotten. Jock McAvoy's fists told their own story. 132 wins, 88 by knockout, only 14 losses, 1 draw. He hit so hard, the Ring magazine named him one of the 100 greatest punchers of all time. Today, BoxRec ranks him 10th best British boxer of all time, 2nd best British middleweight, just behind Randolph Turpin, 39th best middleweight in boxing history. But rankings don't capture his story. This was a man who fought under a name his mother never knew. A name that became lightning in gloves. The Rochdale Thunderbolt. Jock McAvoy. A fighter's fighter. A British legend. The ring had fallen silent. The crowds were gone. The roars that once followed Jock McAvoy everywhere. Now, just echoes in time. After all the glory, all the pain, and all the belts, life threw him its cruelest punches outside the ring. By 1951, McAvoy, once the Thunder in Rochdale, was struck by polio. He'd already survived diphtheria and a broken neck, but polio pinned him in a way no opponent ever could. From that point on, the man who once danced and destroyed in the ring now lived his days in a wheelchair. And then came the nights, long, quiet, endless. With insomnia eating at his sleep and depression weighing on his mind, Jock battled in silence. A different kind of fight. No lights, no crowds, no bell to save him. On November 20th, 1971, in his home in Partington, Cheshire, Jock McAvoy took a final step he could never return from. He overdosed on barbiturates. He was only 61. The Thunderbolt was gone. But here's the truth. Jock McAvoy's story was never just about wins or titles. It was about heart, the kind that faces giants, the kind that keeps standing, even when life knocks you down, the kind that earns you a place not just in history books, but in people's hearts. Rest easy, champ. The world may forget the records, but it will always remember the fighter. He fought under a name not his own, so his mother wouldn't worry. He fought across continents, so the world would know his name. From smoke-filled halls in Manchester to the blinding lights of Madison Square Garden, Jock McAvoy didn't just throw punches. He carved a legacy with them. He battled legends. He dropped champions. He stood toe-to-toe with men heavier, bigger, and walked away with their respect. But even the strongest warriors grow quiet. When the crowds faded and the belts stopped shining, his biggest fights became the ones we never saw. He lived with pain. He lived with silence. But he never let the world forget who he was. Not just a puncher, not just a champion, but a man who gave everything, in the ring and out. Jock McAvoy, the Rochdale Thunderbolt. Gone but never forgotten. A fighter to the end. A legend forever.